Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and thank you for joining this final Neo4j Live for 2024. Can you believe it? It's already December, end of December. I'm very happy to have a fellow DevRel colleague from Neo4j joining this special episode. Hi, Sid, and welcome to Neo4j Live.
Hi, Alex. Thank you so much for having me for the last episode of
Yeah,
J Live. Still can't believe it's the end of the year.
yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. I feel like at some point this year has it's almost at some point I feel it's like February or March. At the same time, it's 2026 already. So it's like poof, I don't know. Too many things happened, and yeah, it's been a wild run this year. So I'm happy to have you join this episode today. Um, my voice is a little bit sore, my throat, so excuse me, please, for sounding a little bit off maybe today, but yeah, that's winter
That,
here
that
in
makes the two of us, by the
yeah.
way. I also have a sore throat, so it's a perfect way to wrap up the year as
It
well.
is, yeah. Yeah, and we have a cool topic today. So from ancient epic to modern marvel, demystifying the, and then you have to correct me how to pronounce this, the Mahabharata.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
chatbot with GraphRAG. I must admit I don't know the Mahabharata. Is that a very known? I'm assuming a very well known epic story tale from India. So I'm guessing you give us a little insight into that as well, maybe. Yeah.
Absolutely. Should we do the regular slides? I can present and
You could share a couple slides, but maybe before we do that, you can tell everybody a few words about who you are and what you're doing. So give everybody a little background on yeah, on you.
okay, lovely. Sounds good. I mean, you know me, so
Yeah,
you
I
know.
do. So, but
Primarily
maybe
for the
a couple other
audiences
people won't. Yeah.
listening to me.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So my name is Siddhant. You can call me Sid. I lead developer relations for Asia Pacific at Neo4j. Uh, it's been two and a half years. Wait, 2+ years. I won't say 2.5 years. It's 2+ years with Neo4j.
Yeah.
An incredible journey, to be honest. Especially working with graphs. It's fabulous. I have never seen such an amazing product in my life ever before. I've worked with DevRel, and it's been more than a decade that I've spent my entire career with DevRel. But Graphs has been so exciting. I love what Neo4j is doing as a company, as a product, helping developers at large
Mhm.
understand where are the hidden insights, what are the hidden insights in the data that exists. So definitely a great job on that. Coming back to my introduction, as I said, I lead DevRel for APAC at Neo4j. Spent over a decade with DevRel. In the past, worked with Google for roughly 3 years. That's kind of been the highlight of my career so far, right?
Cool.
Like other than Neo4j.
Mhm.
And then worked with IBM, worked with two startups. I'm a Google developer expert in GenAI. I also take care of Google Developer Group's Cloud Bangalore chapter and Google Developer Group's Bangalore chapter as well. Um, so yeah, community DevRel. That's what I've been doing. That's been my passion. That's also my bread and butter as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's nice. Very cool. Do you remember when you came across graphs for the first time and then you realized, oh, this is different, but it's also, like you said, it's a cool technology, so very 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 interesting to work with, very very, but also very different. And then at some point, you realize, oh, this is nice. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you remember when you
Oh,
when
I I've been so I actually came across graphs only the time when I joined Neo4j,
yeah,
just being honest over here and
yeah,
candid.
yeah.
So I had absolutely no idea about graphs or Neo4j
I
before
see.
I joined the
Okay.
company.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
So I had no idea. So I joined the company and I was just going through normal course of getting myself updated on what's happening in this world in Neo4j and graph database. Like, yeah, okay, this is nice technology.
Yeah.
Looks fancy, looks good. where I can really put this into like a real world use case. That's what I've been figuring out for last 1 year, 1.5 years.
Mm,
Before I went on to build this chatbot, build this application, it's been the usual use cases which we typically come across: financial
yeah,
fraud, drug discovery, real time recommendations. Um, but I always wanted to put this into action.
yeah,
That's what my thought process was, but was struggling to find a really good use case which can resonate with me. At least I don't care.
mhm,
I had no intention of making sure that this resonates with the entire Indian population, entire world. But yeah, so something which resonates, that I can relate well. So that was the topic that I was looking for a good amount of time.
yeah,
We know there are case studies like Panama Papers. That was also exciting to me.
yeah,
So yeah, always been fascinated since the time I joined, but never came across graphs before
yeah. Okay,
before
yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah,
before I joined Neo4j.
yeah. Cool. No, that's great. So thank you. So so we get a little background. That's cool. And I think, yeah, you don't have necessarily to come across it before, obviously. And it's good to, when you discover it, and when you realize, oh, this is a new concept. This is something to play around with, and then tend to see, okay, yeah, actually I can solve a couple of challenges here. I can work with data in a slightly different way, but also opens up a new way of accessing what's in your data, what's there. It's really amazing, and it's really good fun.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, I think we let's get started. You had a sort of short talk about this in during Nodes earlier this year. So if you watched Nodes, or if you had seen this on the agenda, then there was basically the preview, and this is giving us a bit more time to explore a little bit more and go a little bit more into details on the session. So yeah, we can do that. And as always, if you have any questions to us personally, to about Neo4j generally, or about obviously about the topic we are talking about today, GraphRAG and chatbot building, then please use the chat, and I'll have an eye out for it, and I'll see if we can find some time to answer a couple of questions. That's always welcome and encouraged for everybody to join in the discussion.
Super. Let me just present my screen. I mean, the presentation is just for giving visual clues, but yeah, I mean, you don't need a presentation
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Just 1 second. Okay, so let me first introduce what is Mahabharat. I mean, Mahabharat is the Hindi, or the native pronunciation of this epic.
Hmm.
Uh, you can call it Mahabharata, which is more like an English pronunciation. So Mahabharat or Mahabharata, anything is fine. It's an ancient Indian epic. I believe it's one of the longest stories in world literature. I don't think so anything bigger than this epic has ever
Cool.
written, or probably will be ever written. So this is one of the ancient epic which I'm sure every Indian would definitely relate to. It's about broader context is it's about a fierce family rivalry between two two set of brothers,
Hmm.
Pandavas and Kauravas. So there are two separate set of brothers, and there's some family rivalry over land and over properties and stuff like that, which ultimately led to an epic war. The epic war's name is Kurukshetra War. It's again pretty famous in the historical sense.
Hmm.
Um, the best part about Mahabharata is, l- so the entire goodness of what's there in Mahabharata. There is a preacher, or no, in India we treat that character as God,
Hmm.
um, as a like a holy figure, called Krishna. Krishna preached a lot of goodness in Mahabharata. So a lot of those goodness is taken from Mahabharata and put it and compiled into our We call it as holy, like your we call it as Bhagavad Gita, which is like the holy Bible, for Indians. So Bhagavad Gita is more like the refined version of Mahabharata, which has all the goodness, and how do you lead life when you come across this kind of situation? How do you tackle the situation in this way? So they're like good for like modern day conflict resolution, or like learnings and internal like leadership learnings and stuff like that.
Okay.
So through its complex characters and moral struggles, this epic explores universal themes of like duty, justice, and resilience. These are the broader themes, and its centerpiece, as I said, like Bhagavad Gita, offers timeless wisdom on ethics and purpose. So
Ah, okay.
making this epic a source of inspiration and reflection for readers worldwide. And trust me when I say readers worldwide, it's not just Indians who read Bhagavad Gita.
Mm.
I've seen non-Indians also reading Bhagavad Gita, the English translation of Bhagavad Gita, and uh, gaining wisdom out of it,
Yeah.
getting inspired. I was in London, sorry, UK, in Birmingham, last week at the after the offsite, and then there were people from ISKCON community. They were talking about Bhagavad Gita and
Mm.
educating people about Bhagavad Gita, and there was great interest among non-Indians as well in learning what's there in the epic.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the premise of this epic. Now,
Very cool. Is
move.
is it based to some extent on real historical facts, or is it more of a inspirational tale, or more of a, like you say, educational guiding tale on where there's some, bits of, and maybe you don't even, you can't even tell anymore because it's written long time ago, so there might have been, and then it turned into this epic that is now a story and that is now more of inspiration. But is it known that something has been, historically happened, or is it more like we guess it, we think probably has something has happened, but it is not not
Right.
not 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 provable at this time.
Absolutely. No, so uh, I'm not a great historian to
Mm.
discover these facts, but from what I've heard uh, and what I've read so far, yes, there are definitely some proven
Hmm.
facts, or some incidents, or there's some what do you say, like tangible
Yeah.
figures, as in stones or something. I mean, from those were the kind of a proven way to say that yes, something like this existed.
Yeah.
It's not completely fictitious. It's there are facts to
Hmm.
prove the authenticity of this tale as well.
Yeah.
It's tough to comment on it, to be honest.
It
I mean,
is.
I don't want to get into the debate
Yeah.
between historians and people who are non-historians, who don't want to consider these as the mere what's there in the tales, or whatever people are using it as a means to prove that yes, these are correct. Like the people who don't want to accept that, and they usually go with the scientific
Yeah.
evidence to back it. So I mean, I'll take a balanced approach and say yes, there are pieces from the history which you can prove and say that yes, these are factual, while just taking some side on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there are pieces which may seem to be factually correct, but not scientifically
Yeah. Okay.
accurate.
Yeah,
So
Paul wrote in chat, this is 5,000 years ago, based on many real characters and true facts, but story writers added some flavors to make it more dramatic, or to
yeah,
add, obviously you want
exactly,
you want to, in the end, you want to write a story that's also somewhat entertaining. So it is a bit boring if you just rattle off fact after fact. So I guess, yeah, that makes sense. That's good.
exactly. I mean, for example, this war happened, Kurukshetra war. This place is a real world
Yeah.
location. If you search on Google, you'll still find that location. So the place exists.
Yeah.
Some spots, as Paul just mentioned, like some spots from the history exist,
Yeah.
which are mentioned in this epic. But
Mm.
like the real authenticity of for this epic is I don't think so.
It's
Nobody's
hard to prove. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to prove. Yeah.
Makes sense. Because this question came up a couple of times as well. If this session will be recorded, yes, it will be recorded, and you can find the video afterwards in our YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com/, at Neo4j, you'll find all the videos, and you'll find this one there as well. So yeah.
Super. So, so why I chose this particular epic as the project
Hmm.
to figure out what graphs are and how graphs really look in a scenario like this. So when I was reading, I haven't read the entire epic, to be honest, and it's tough. I mean, it's super big. You can't read. Most Indians have seen um, uh, the TV version of it, the television version of Mahabharata, like people enacting various parts of it.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what most of the Indians can relate to. So I was just thinking, like, there's so many characters in this epic, but how many characters can we really put into graphs? Then what are the relationship that exists between these characters as well? So these were a couple of questions that were there in my mind. How many characters, how many relationships, whether it really makes sense to put it in a graph, or I can just put a like a usual approach of let's create a table, this character, this relationship, this character, this relationship. I mean, one to one mapping or one to many mapping at max. Take a RDBMS approach for this. Should be easy
Mhm.
thing. That's what I felt when I was starting with this, and eventually started with a tabular structure itself. There's a character, then I know there's a relationship between another character, so I can just put that character again and then write again. But it's getting a little complex in nature
Mhm.
when I was going further in the history. How many characters and how many characters do I have to duplicate? How many relationships do I have to duplicate again and again? So so eventually I thought, okay, can I just like first figure out how many characters are there, how many relationships are there, um, and then move on to the actual part of modeling it. So Mahabharata is not only a story of war, but also a treasure trove of human experience, covering aspects of politics, ethics, and human psychology.
Mhm.
That's why they're not just relationships, like familiar relationships. They're relationships beyond the familial relationships, which I'm going to talk in a while. Um, so um, this epic is a deeply intricate narrative structure with over 100,000 verses and over 1.8 million words. That's the volume I'm talking about over here.
Yeah. That's
Um, that's
not
huge.
small. Yes.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Any epic would have this like close to even close to this number. I doubt. Um, yeah, I mean, the historians have done a great job
Yeah.
in building that epic. The second thing was, as I said, like I want to figure out how many characters. So after reading the epic or researching about it, um, came to a conclusion that there are over 200 significant characters within the epic, including gods, humans, demons, sages, animals, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But there are countless secondary figures. Um, these the significant characters, the 200 ones, of course, there are well-known figures like your Pandavas and Kauravas, the two set of brothers with whom the fight was, and then there are key figures like Krishna, as I told, someone who is guiding, like a guiding light, Bhishma, Karna, Draupadi, and blah blah blah, many more. But these countless figures, these secondary figures, these countless secondary figures, also hold a great importance in the epic.
Mhm.
It does that if you start adding these figures, um, uh, the scale is like, um, I don't know. I even bother to get into that stage, but I'm sure the scale would be crazy to even think about it or visualize from your eyes. So that was the second thing. The third thing was to uh, know what kind of relationships exist. So this epic dense web of relationship adds depth and complexity to its narrative. A is connected to B via, let's say, a familiar relationship, but then B is connected to C via maybe a rivalry relationship, not with a familial relationship. So these profound insights um, into like nature, duty, morality was something that I was able to figure out um, from the epic. So this is the context of what
Yeah.
Mahabharata is all about. Um, yeah.
That's very cool. Just to, I think I just did a quick internet search, and Homer's Odyssey, which is probably also very well known here in as another epic from Europe, from this Greek writer. This is just 12,000 verses. So
Mm,
and it's very, it's also a very big and epic story about this besiege of, or the siege of Troy and all of that. So you can kind of like, to give it a bit of a perspective. This is just very, very big. Yeah.
yeah, 10x,
Yeah.
roughly 10x.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this is a broader premise, but then as I said about relationships, so what kind of relationships that exist in Mahabharata? So there's of course familiar relationships like father son, siblings, cousins. That those are the family relationships, but then there were marital alliances as well, marriages for political alliance and family continuity, someone marrying someone else just basis of someone wants to build a political alliance. Both the fathers wanted to build a political alliance, something like that.
Mhm.
And then there is a teacher-student relationship also that exists. So there's a character, Drona, and then his disciples, or Krishna and Arjuna as a mentor and prodigy. So those kind of relationships also exist. And then there's adversarial relationships like rivalries and enmities, as I said, particularly highlighted by the conflict between Pandavas and Kauravas, the brothers, two set of brothers. So, yeah. So this complexity comes from these characters, their interwoven relationships, which ultimately creates a multi-layered narrative that explores all this loyalty, power, righteousness. So modern representations or computational models like knowledge graphs um, map out these relationships, revealing the web of connections that helped me shape this epic's plot in a nice graphical way. Um, and that's what I went ahead and did, mapping one to one these relationships. So yeah, should I move on? Should I take them to the journey?
Yeah.
Or do you-
I don't. Yeah, a comment from Eshwar is one of the greatest epics of Indian history, composed by, and I think, I don't know if you did, you
Saint
mention
Vyas.
Sage Rias? Yeah, I think you did. It contains important lessons about life ethics, power, and dharma, righteousness, so every Indian can tell proudly more about his history. Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, that's very.
Absolutely. Right. So, okay. So, as I said at the start as well, that we can do this with the relational database. While it's powerful, it's great, but it often struggles with the depth and fluidity of connections
Mhm.
inherent in narratives like these, like Mahabharata. And that's where a craft databases excel, where nodes can represent your characters and your edges can depict your relationships between the characters. So everything is like perfectly mirroring the narrative's intricate web. So graph databases treat relationships as first class citizens, first class entities. That's where Neo4j shines. That's where graph technology shines. And it was a natural choice for me. So I use Neo4j for sure. Of course, not just because I'm working here at Neo4j, but it really helped me at the end of the day. So I divided this entire journey into three parts. I mean, I didn't thought of three parts when I started off. It was just like, okay, I'll build something, I'll think of something. So so I started with graphing this entire epic. How do I put it? So with power of graphs and Neo4j at my disposal, so the next step was to construct this web of relationships. First step was assembling the data. I mean, um, you have various data sources. If you go and search on Mahabharata today in Google, you'll find like tons of resources. Which one is true? Which one is correct? Authenticity, which one gives you a comprehensive list of characters or a family tree, a detailed description. That's tough to find. There's no definitive source for this information. Like, okay, this is the one. This is. I mean, everyone has their own versions of it.
Mhm.
Um, So I found one nice article online, uh, and there were a bunch of others. So I use a combination of that article and then bunch of other sources, which talks about family lineage in this epic since the time of the creation of the universe. So I used that as a source and started reading those were like single line text. So I started reading those single line texts.
Okay.
Um, and eventually I can figure out or kind of like um, uh, find or fetch characters from each of those lines of text, which eventually became node in my graph. So that was the second step. Okay, these characters will become the node, and then I can populate these nodes with relevant information such as name, gender, whether they are holding a title like a king or
Mhm.
something. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
those additional information I started dumping into the characters. The third step, which is where the real magic began, by defining the relationship between characters. So you have family bonds, alliances, rivalries, etc. So I meticulously mapped
Yeah.
these connections using edges in Neo4j. So initially I drawn relationships, like manually created relationships. Okay, this character, this is the line of text. I can find these two characters. Now these two characters seems like there's a relationship of a father and a daughter.
Yeah.
So okay,
Okay.
there's a father of relationship and then there is a daughter of
Mhm.
relationship. There's a son of relationship and then there's a mother of relationship. So and then husband of, wife of, so those kind of relationships I started creating manually. And fourth step was, uh, after I have found these nodes and edges, I had to populate the graph with all these characters, the connections, and everything,
Mhm.
making sure that I don't mess up with the accuracy, the so-called accuracy of this epic, but at least whatever people consider to be accurate. So I just want to map that.
Mhm.
And after the graph was populated with roughly 1,000 cipher statements, this is how my graph database looked like. I got 191% nodes and 579 relationships.
Yeah. Wow.
um, yeah. So I mean, if you recall, I mentioned that 200 significant characters, I reached somewhere close to those
Yeah.
200%
Yeah.
nodes over there. Yeah. So that was that. I can visualize it as well. Looks fine, looks great.
Mhm.
I can discover the shortest part between two characters as well. If there's a direct chain, if there's an indirect chain. um, and in fact, just to go back to the previous one, when I was writing these cipher statements, what I did was, I used help of ChatGPT and Gemini together, just to like kind of automate few things. I mean,
Yeah.
Gemini was there, so why not to make the best use of it? uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was getting a little restless after writing almost 500 cipher statements.
I can
How
imagine.
much
Yeah.
further I have to write
Yeah.
for those cipher statements. So what I did was, I wrote those 500 initially. So I just took that as a reference and asked ChatGPT and Gemini, okay, this is my text looks like, and out of the six, this is what the cipher statement looks like.
Mhm.
This is
Okay.
what I could figure out from the
Yeah.
text.
You gave it an example, sort of to work off from. Yeah. It's good.
Exactly.
Mm.
So I gave both of them like 5 6 such prompts, and then gave them a new text. Okay, now help me write a new cipher statement based on this text. Um, I mean, they did a fairly good job, both of them, ChatGPT and Gemini
Mhm.
back then. Great job in finding out what the cipher statement looks like for this particular text. Few issues, they made mistakes like gender was incorrect in couple of instances. um, so if I'm creating a node, creating a character in my graph, they mistaken it as male, but it was rather female,
Ah.
or
Okay.
it
Yeah.
was female, but then they added male as a property.
Mhm.
Or I mean, like very minor
Yeah.
mistakes were made. They made mistakes in relationships as well. if it was a, it should be a father of relationship, they inserted a mother of relationship, and
Okay, I
vice
see.
versa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, because it's the names sounded very different, and it was tough to figure out the gender, and then eventually create a relationship or map the gender.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I won't call this as a mistake by ChatGPT or Gemini. They still did a great job in helping me write the next 500 cipher codes, cipher statements.
Did
Um,
you provide the full text to ChatGPT or Gemini as a source, or how did you?
no, so I went with, so for example, if you see, let's say the first cipher statement,
Yeah.
create Brahma person name Brahma gender male.
Yeah.
So the first cipher statement that you're saying, probably the text would say, Brahma created the universe.
Hmm.
Just say, okay.
Yeah.
So that's the first text.
Yeah.
So from the text, I created a node, right?
Hmm.
So I didn't give the entire source. I just gave them like single line text.
Ah. Okay. Okay. I see. Yeah.
If, so if in a single line, they have to identify a character and also create a relationship between two characters,
Hmm.
not just
Hmm.
one character. So they have to identify like, oh, whatever number of characters are there in that particular text. So they create the characters. So create, use a create command to create characters. Once the characters are
Okay.
created, then add the relationships to it. So it's a combination of
Hmm.
um, two things. So
Okay.
yeah, it was just a single line text, not the full text source that I give them. So yeah, that was that. Got a nice looking graph. Was very happy. Everything felt good. But yeah, so I was showing this off to Michael Hungar. You know Michael.
Yeah.
Michael I consider him as the legend in graph.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you could
Uh,
say that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, he knows everything. I was showing this off to him. He felt excited. I mean, he liked the idea, he liked the concept,
Yeah.
and then he asked me, said, "GenAI is kind of at its peak, and everyone's talking about GenAI. Can you do something about GenAI?" And he comes with like these crazy ideas, sometimes
As it
different to
does. Yes.
process as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was just taking a step back, and I'm like, Michael, can I do that? Can I really do that? So then I was trying to figure out what's the best way. Can I create a chatbot which can query this? Um, that brought me to come up with the part two of it. So part one was done. I wrote a blog,
Yeah.
felt happy about it, and it was a good prompt by Michael in a way to question me. How can I bring this epic to a non-technical audience who doesn't know how to write a cipher statement?
Hmm.
Um, so how do you encourage them to use this application? I know Cipher is amazing. Neo4j provides this great language to query graph database, to store relationships and then query it as well. But it's definitely a hurdle for a non-technical user. I
Yeah.
mean, when I started, I might have known maybe just 10% of Cipher.
Okay.
Someone who doesn't know even that 10%, it's very difficult for that person to figure out what the syntax looks like or query it. So if I want to find who are the parents of a character, let's say Lord Kashyap,
Hmm.
the query might look like something like this. But I don't know if someone else can really write this query. So that was a challenge which I had never done before. There were a bunch of resources online around GenAI and Neo4j, but was struggling to find out what's the right resource, how I can really work it, what's the easiest. I didn't want to go with a open AI key, to be honest. So what's the easiest way for me to plug in an open source LLM or something which is like an easy way?
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, long story short, I came up this version one, uh, a very rudimentary chatbot. which is someone looks at it today like, what shit is this?
You gotta start somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it was that shit
Yeah.
back then. So imagine you're asking a
But it
question
worked.
and it gives like a one word answer to you.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, what yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, still okay because it was able to translate your natural language questions to
Yeah,
cipher statements behind the scenes and then give you an answer back. So, I mean, okay,
yeah,
still okay. It's still
yeah.
not too bad. Um, so as I said, I wanted to use a simplified version which makes my life easier and don't want to write too much of code. So I went with this Google AI Studio. I don't recall what it was called before. I forgot the name, but there was a different name when I was using it. So now it's called Google AI Studio.
Mhm.
um, and then I used the Gemini API key from there.
Okay.
Now this acted as a bridge to translate my user queries into nearly accurate cipher statements. I won't say it's fully accurate cipher statements, but it was good. So created a prompt template which says, okay, you are an expert in converting English language to cipher statements, the usual way of doing a prompt template.
Yeah.
This is my schema. This is how my schema looks like. These are the nodes. These are the relationships. This are the nodes and relationships are connected. um, some guardrails. If you see this, then it means this. If you see this, then it means this, something like that. And then gave some input and text outputs as well.
Okay. Yeah.
um,
Cool.
Sorry, cipher outputs as well. So okay, the question is this is how the output looks like. Take a cipher output looks like. um, so build this chatbot. Felt good again. This was amazing. I presented this for the very first time. Still remember the time. This was March earlier this year,
Mhm.
March 2024.
Yeah.
I presented this for the first time at Build with AI Roadshow in Bangalore. This roadshow was done by Google. So they were doing some roadshows across the country and showcasing projects which are built on Gemini and
Oh, cool.
other technologies of Gemini and only Gemini. Sorry. So I presented over there, and again, it felt good after the first step. Okay, I've like like, proceeded in the journey, build a chatbot. Looks amazing. People can interact in natural language. There are a couple of questions from users. Can I question it outside what's there in the database? Can I talk about anything which is in the epic? And I was like, no, definitely not. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
So I went back to Michael again and asked him, Michael, this is the question that came to me. Can I do something about it? And then Michael again came up with another crazy idea. He's like, uh, why don't you use GraphRAG? Like, what's that? I mean, GraphRAG was super new to me at that point
Yeah.
of time.
Yeah.
It's like, use GraphRAG as a concept, as a term, or start chunking these text. And all of those sounded super technical at that stage. Like, what is chunking? What is
Oh,
this? What is
yes. Yeah,
document?
yeah. Yeah. It's all new terms nobody has, or not many people have heard of before, and it's all new concepts, new ways of doing things. So yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and Michael being Michael, he's always coming up with these crazy ideas. Um, so he said, yeah, you can do that. It's not that difficult. Yeah, I know how difficult it was. He was like, oh, you can do that. Start chunking it. Start putting it into the database. And I was like, okay, let me give it a shot.
Easy, easy.
Yeah, so kind of easy. So that's where the part three. I mean, you have better tools now, but
Yeah.
back then there was nothing.
Yeah.
The things were still taking some shape. So, okay, I thought, okay, part two is done. Now part three journey should start, which is GraphRAG meeting Mahabharata.
Hmm.
Let's advance it further. I had zero hope, to be honest, when I started this third version of it. Where will I ever be able to complete this
Yeah.
project?
Okay.
uh, because it was tough.
Yeah.
And when I say tough, I'm talking about the volume again.
Yeah.
um, we're talking
Yeah.
about 18 books,
Yeah.
or 18 per verse, which is, I mean, if you classify one book into one PDF, it's 18 PDFs with an average of 300 pages per PDF. I mean, that's again an average. Some of these PDFs might have even 600, 700 PDFs, 700 pages as well. And so, broadly speaking, this is how the numbers would look like if you are thinking in a Gen AI sense,
Yeah.
that I have to kind of embed uh, roughly 10 million characters into my database as vectors.
Yeah.
Um, if I take 5,400 pages overall, 2,000 characters per page, so 10 million
Yeah. It's
characters.
not a small little PDF you have with your, you know, 5, 6 pages or something with a couple of maybe even 2 images or something. No, no, this is serious. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 2.7 million tokens I am processing uh, at the end of the day for the entire epic. That's a lot of computation and money that will go in
Oh
uh,
yes.
to
Yeah.
process those tokens as well. Um, so that was a challenge, and of course, I'm not covering the technical part of what is RAG, what is GraphRAG, but for those who don't know what is GraphRAG, I'll just cover it in a quick um, 30,000 feet view. So
Okay.
vector RAG is where you have PDFs, and then you or sources of document, and then you start chunking them into multiple text documents, and then convert them into vectors, convert those texts into vectors. It's just like a three-dimensional, like a array of numbers, and then put it into three-dimensional space, and then you store it in a vector database. So when someone queries, comes with a question, you convert that question into vector, tries to find a similarity score between the question vector and the vectors that are already stored in your vector database. So you find it via cosine similarity. So that's what we call it as vector similarity search.
Mhm.
So so you try to find a similarity score with how much is similar, and then eventually if you feel that okay, this is much more similar to the question vector, this output, this text of document looks very similar to what the question is being asked, so you start give providing it as an output. Now this is great, this is awesome, no doubt, but what it fails is when you are asking a lot of context rich questions. You want to ask multi hop questions. Hey, what about this, and also tell me about this, and tell me about this.
Hmm.
Sometimes it starts failing in those scenarios, and that's where GraphRAG comes into picture, where we are not getting away with the vector similarity search. It's there, but once you get the vector node, like the starting node as a vector, then you start traversing the local graph, which you have identified from the document itself, the text document itself. So your text documents will also have some entities and relationships. So you also create a separate graph of those entities and relationships, so that once you are finding a text document, you can traverse the graph also locally, and then get a better result. Now you can also top it up with graph data science algorithms, graph data science based graph traversals, as we call it. You can top it up, or you can just done with vector similarity and local graph traversal. So that essentially is what you can do in GraphRAG and in Neo4j. Neo4j gives you an option for vector search, graph database, and graph data science. So everything is under one roof. So you can store everything with the Neo4j and query it also with the Neo4j. So that's in a brief about what GraphRAG is. Now coming back to my project, uh, how do I really do these chunking and then extract entities and create a graph out of those entities that are extracted, and relationships that are extracted from the textual documents, from this epic basically. So that's where this LLM graph builder tool
Mm,
exactly at
yeah.
the right time came to my rescue. Um, yeah, it's been roughly what 8 9 months when this tool was conceptualized, and the first version of it was launched. The, I think it was April 24 when I started using this tool. Um, it was okayish back then, very early stage. It's
Yeah.
amazing now,
Yeah.
super amazing now. Um, but those who have not tried, it's as simple as what I'm showing you right now. 3 steps: you connect in Neo4j, you upload your files, and you generate graph. Literally as simple as that. I didn't want to write any code to do any processing, any embeddings, and this really helped me. And it generates a graph, or it generates 2 graph. As I said, it's there's one is your lexical document graph, so your chunks so there's a master document node, and then there's chunk nodes, and all of them are
Mhm.
connected with each other. Then from the chunks it extracts entities and nodes, sorry, nodes and relationships, and starts creating a graph with that chunk as well. So you have a entity graph, and then you also have a document graph. So both of them you can visualize it directly within the tool, or you can go to the console, Neo4j console, and visualize it over there as well.
Yeah.
um, and now within the tool you also have an option to chat with the documents that you have inserted, so you can ask questions directly within the tool itself, to see whether the results are great. um, so that was that. Let me show you a quick demo of how the tool looks like. So this is how the tool looks like.
Mhm. And I shared a link in chat where you can find, um, the you can use it yourself. You can. This is an open source project, so you can also deploy it yourself if you wish to. But there's a website you can access, and then you can try it out without doing, any
Absolutely. Thank
pre-work.
you. Thanks, Alex. So yeah, so it's pretty simple, pretty easy. I've already connected to a Neo4j instance, which is my same instance where my Mahabharat nodes and relationships exist. I connect that, and then I can just click on browse and start adding my PDFs or whatever it is. I can even use web sources like
Uh-huh.
Wikipedia sources, websites. I can go via Amazon or Google Cloud Storage in S3 buckets as well. So I have the option. Now, once the PDF is uploaded, I just select that PDF. Now, since it's already done, it won't show you. And then I have an option to switch between LLMs.
Mhm.
That's the beauty about this tool. You do not have to pay for any of the LLM usage.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, it's freaking amazing. I mean, Neo4j has done a great job in providing this for
Yeah.
free. So no API keys needed, no credentials to be added, nothing. Just select GPT-4o, 4o Mini, Flash, whatever you want. I mean, these are the options for you for now, in the cloud version, and then just click on generate graph, and it generates a nice graph, which you can further visualize it
Yeah.
like this. Let's see. Since it's a big graph, it takes a little while to load up sometimes. Uh,
Yeah. So just to explain, because Ashwa asked this in chat, is this chatbot is used only for the Mahabharata history of that particular and related things, and you cannot you it's used to access the history, the epic in this way, and you cannot really ask other questions. You can obviously add new things. So I don't know. Let's say there were, maybe it's a good, you can use what Sid already uploaded there is included there for the chat for the chatbot integration for the GraphRAG part is the whole epic. But let's say you could add in additional information, maybe to, let's say, places, and you pick Wikipedia entries from a certain place that happened, that it is a real place. You could add that information into it as well, and then link a real place from India or from wherever in the world with the place that's mentioned in the book, in the epic, and then you can kind of like draw a connection. But as long as you don't add to it, it's not really there. So it's not like a Google thing. It's confined to what you give it, unless you open it up, of course, and you can say, okay, let's add this into the wider world, sort of to speak. But in this case, it's more like confined to your information that you provided and what you have said, okay, this is what it's all about, this is what I want, this is my information, that is my piece of PDFs, web links, whatever I have, and this is then generating a graph out of that, and then you can ask and answer between the chatbot interface and what you have as a data source.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
it's taking a little while.
Yeah.
Let's jump on. I mean, you can you can just open up and click on. I think the instance is paused. That's probably it's taking a little.
Maybe, yeah, that could be.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
here we
no.
go.
Okay,
There it is. Yeah.
perfect. So as I said, I can switch between entity graph and my lexical graph. So if I just keep the document graph, so this is six.pdf. That's the sixth book, sixth chapter,
Hmm.
basically,
Yeah.
and that sixth chapter is divided into multiple chunks. Now these chunks are also connected with each other. If you see, there's this chunk and it says this is the next chunk.
Ah, yeah. Yeah.
That's the best part. I mean, usually what I've seen in vector RAG, what typically happens, you get the vectors, but these vectors are disconnected with each other. So if there's a, let's say there's a nice number in one paragraph, and then when you're trying to divide those text into chunks, the part of the number, part of that figure, is then part of one chunk, and then the other part is another chunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mm.
so when you're querying, you don't get an exact number, you might get an approximate number to it.
Yeah.
So that's what I've seen usually happening. But this one gives you, okay, this is the next chunk, this is the next chunk, and you can visualize it. You can go, and so it won't show it over here, but once you go to the console, you can open up each PDF and it will show you the text as well.
Text. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
um,
Yeah.
so it will show you over here that this is the text that's there, and then you can go and click on entities. Oops. So from the main, so let's say from this particular PDF, it found a couple of entities. This is an entity, and then there are a bunch of relationships that exist. This is another entity. This is the same sage that one of the listener just mentioned in the chat window.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, so
So
it's two
it can be people, it can be locations,
places. Yeah,
places, yeah, food I see as well. Oh, that's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Celestial body, events, there's natural phenomena. I
Mm.
mean, uh, you can put some more guardrails with graph enhancement
Mm-hmm.
now, which was not there when I started out with this
Oh, yeah.
tool.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, Earlier, it even created a lot of duplicate nodes. So, for example, Bangalore can be mentioned in some texts as BLR, in some texts as Bangalore, and in
Mhm.
some texts as Bangalore.
Okay. I see.
Right?
Yeah. Of course. Mm.
But all the three represents one single thing.
Mm. Yeah.
So, how do you club them together? How does the LLM understand and clubs them together? Right. So those kind of announcements was not there back then, so it might create even duplicate nodes.
Mm-hmm.
Might have already created, which I didn't went back and remove those. There might be some disconnected nodes as well, like which we call it as orphan nodes. You created them, but these are lonely, they don't have any relationship, they just exist in their
Yeah.
own world. So now you can go back and delete those nodes as well. Then there's entity extraction settings, which I loved, as a feature which came in. So imagine I already have a structured graph that exists in my database. You remember the part one
Mm-hmm.
when I started off with graphing the epic.
Yeah.
Now I want to make sure that the new graph which is generating, or the new entities that are getting extracted, and these relationship ties, these are restricted to, like, based on what I have already created. So I want to put those guardrails, and let LLM find out nodes and entities, but also make sure that it doesn't go outside the list of relationships and nodes that are already there in the graph.
Yeah.
So take that as a reference point. If you identify those, then start creating creating further nodes or relationships.
Mhm.
Um, don't be, kind of super creative and start.
Exactly, yeah. Don't come up with things. This is what I want. I give you this. This is the schema. This is the model. Use this model. Don't be crazy.
Exactly. So, so since my schema had only person as the node, only one node was there.
Yeah,
So if it sees places, you should not create. If I'm
yeah,
using guardrails, it
yeah,
should only create person nodes, right? So that's there as a feature now, but it didn't exist back then, which is also fine. I'm okay with that. I had absolutely no idea what kind of nodes that might exist in
yeah.
the
Totally. Yeah,
so still okay. I mean, and yeah, so that's how you can visualize it, visualize the graph. And once you're done with that, you also have an option to chart within the tool. I'm going to talk about a chatbot, like final chatbot, in a while, but this is how you can also chat within the tool. So if I ask when and where uh, did the Mahabharata war happen and why? So let's ask. I hope it doesn't fail me. Otherwise, you can always say demos are meant to be broken.
yes.
Okay, let's see.
Here we go.
Yes,
Okay.
as I said, it's a region in present day Haryana, India. The war occurred as a result of dynastic succession conflict between Pandavas and Kauravas, two branches of Kuru dynasty. Like these were two brothers, two
Yeah,
set up brothers.
yeah.
The primary cause of the war was the Kauravas' refusal to share the kingdom with the Pandavas, despite the latter's rightful claim. This led to a breakdown in peace negotiations and ultimately resulted in the battle. The war is a central event in Mahabharata and symbolizes the struggle between dharma, righteousness, and adharma, unrighteousness.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I can click on these details and I can see where the information is retrieved from.
Yeah, yeah. Perfect.
So
That's really cool.
it took 10
Uh,
seconds to utilize these many tokens, 26K. This was the model which was used
Yeah,
in a graph and a vector and full text mode.
I see. Yeah,
These were the chunks which were used as a source to get that information. Then these were the chunks from which it found the information. So eventually, the most relevant one was this 5.pdf with a similarity score of 1.
yeah.
It was 60 pages. These were the top entities that were used to get the answer,
Hmm.
and this is the evaluation metrics. Yeah, and then I can click on view detailed metrics and I can see how the scoring happened.
Yeah,
Pretty good. I mean, it felt amazing after building this. Took a little while because initially this tool was not working that well. There were hiccups in processing it, uh, whatnot.
yeah.
So eventually, I had to figure out a way to make sure that I kind of build something. Um, yeah,
Yeah. But that's pretty cool, and it shows, how well it works and how that everybody can try it out, and it's fairly open to play around. And maybe don't start with an epic like this one in your first go. Maybe pick a couple of small pieces PDF, and you get quickly get a view of it, how it works, how it's done, and you get
yeah,
some quick
yeah.
success, I would say. Yeah.
Start with a Wikipedia page. I
Or
mean,
yeah,
I
exactly.
also have a separate demo which I usually show it in sessions. Um, I, I I did the chunking of James Bond Wikipedia
Oh yeah,
page
perfect.
and
Yeah,
asked
yeah,
questions, which is the
yeah.
first movie adaptation, which is the last movie
Mm.
adaptation. Pretty good responses over there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you can start with the Wikipedia page as well. Why not?
Why
Yeah.
not? Exactly. Yeah, you don't even have to upload anything. You just do that. Yeah, that's great. Good advice.
Cool. And then eventually I got after I was done with all these chunkings and everything, I got 51,000 nodes, which is a lot of nodes
Yeah.
compared to 191 from where I started, and then 500,000 plus
Yeah.
relationships, which again is a lot of relationships.
It is a
I
lot.
mean, I'm sure there would be a couple of duplicates and redundant relationships and nodes,
Yeah.
uh, but even if you reduce them, I don't think so. Number would go super low,
Yeah.
uh, so it's still okay.
Yeah.
And then after I was done with all these graph building, I created a version 2 of the chatbot which exists now, much better than the previous one. It's broken at this point of time, just to give you a heads up on that. There were some dependencies which I need to update with the
Okay.
backend,
Yeah. But we
but
can
should be up and running
we
in
can
some
update
time.
that link in the video description once it's working
Yeah,
again.
exactly. So it's great. It's working. It's been working fine so far. I can ask some context questions, and then it will give me answer from the entire epic.
Yeah.
So it felt good. Put it in a nice web app. Thanks to a friend of mine who helped me put this into. So it's currently hosted on Hugging Face,
Hmm.
and then push it to a nice web app kind of a UI. So this friend of mine helped me build this UI for it. Um, and this is, I think the link was already shared,
Yep.
the LLM craft builder. I'll just skip this. The GitHub repo link also exists on the repo
Yeah.
page,
That's the
sorry, on
same.
the,
Yeah.
yeah. So you can just uh, so there were a couple of options for LLMs that were there, so you can either pick from that or just run it as a local one for your local LLMs as well.
Yep.
um,
That's good.
yeah, so this is not the end of the road. After part three, I realized that maybe I don't want to stop the journey over here, and I want to
Okay.
make it like an ever evolving journey.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things which I'm thinking, and I can make amendments. So I want to also play around with multiple LLMs
Hmm.
and not just restrict with one LLM. It's a nice way of educating people about, okay, this LLM works this way, this LLM works this way. So I want to give an option within the interface, web interface. You pick your LLM, and then once you pick the LLM, it starts giving you answers based on that LLM. It's the same database, but you can see the difference between one
I
LLM
see.
versus
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
one LLM.
That's good. Could be interesting. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and the second one is multilingual support. I mean, this is an Indian epic, and
Mhm.
India has a background with diversity.
Yeah.
Um, so why to restrict this epic with only English language?
Yeah.
Why can't I make it multilingual? So that's the second thing I want to experiment going
Yeah.
forward. And the third one is the VR driven character integration.
Oh.
This
Okay.
actually came in from our VR demo that we are doing at the booths.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Or maybe we can come up with a VR
Yeah.
uh, interaction as well.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. I'm definitely would be interested in that in seeing that.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see how this journey goes.
Yeah.
So these are the top three things that I have in my mind for 2025. Probably, if I get a chance to come back on Neo4j Live, then I might have
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
of
We
these.
we we take we take a continued look at that. That sounds great. Yeah. Hmm?
Yeah, and then there are a bunch of resources. You do some GraphRAG thing. Do you want to learn about GenAI? This is a place for you to go. And then the Graph Academy, selfish plugin for sure.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much. We are a little bit over time, but not by much. So I think it should all be good. Thank you for for this today. It's been really interesting, really cool, and really fun to see your journey, right? From the beginning, from a relatively small social network, and somebody asked this earlier. I think Ryan asked this earlier. So when you still showed the social network which you manually more or less created, is what do you do if something changes, or if you have conflicting sources, or somebody dies, then in chapter 1, I know person A married person B, and in chapter 16, person B divorced person A, and then something is not really, it's not really dynamic, because it is just this snapshot thing, and then moving it over to a GraphRAG, where you then can, okay, let's talk about the many marriages maybe of this person, and you can see, okay, they were married to this person, and then afterwards this person and this person. You can get a proper insight, and you can have like you have more visibility here. So it's it's
Exactly.
it's been really good. And yeah, and that it in the end is very accessible through this chatbot interface. You get to ask questions, you get to explore it more, and you get more information uh, from the um, from the whole epic. Yeah.
Absolutely. That was great. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
It's definitely an honor to be at this
Yeah.
platform at Neo4j Live. I mean, you've been running this for a while.
Thank you.
I always envy that when am I coming on this 4j Live?
Yeah.
But thank you
Yeah.
for having me. I see the
Absolutely.
couple of questions that are still coming in on YouTube chat and
Yeah, there's from one from Guido. We can maybe do one more question, and then we see.
yeah.
There
And if
is
there are more, then they can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Push it to LinkedIn as
okay,
well.
perfect. Yeah, reach out to Sid. But maybe Guido, we take your question. I
Yes.
have an is this possible question. I have an existing graph with information about printers. On the other hand, I have a set of PDFs that contain information about all kinds of professions. Can I set up a GraphRAG project to extract relevant data from the PDFs and add them to the existing graph, possibly with a human check in between?
Absolutely, you can do that. And in fact, this is a great example of GraphRAG.
Yeah.
We've always been talking about you have a customer information, customer data, or here in this case, it could be professions or anything. And then
Mhm.
you have, let's say, printer manuals, for instance. How do you map the two? How do you map your printer manuals and these customer information? And eventually, someone asking, you have to go back and check this this person bought this printer and not the other printer. So you
Yeah.
have to give out a better information, better context information. So you can do that. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, and it's a good way to we often talk about in GraphRag, we talk about unstructured data like in PDFs or something else. But if you have and you say you have already a graph, so that's already very structured data, very perfectly set up as a graph database. So you have a very rich set of information already in your graph, and you add the unstructured data on top of it, and you connect the two. That's super helpful because the baseline of your graph can help the unstructured data to become more relevant. You should have less orphan nodes, you should have less duplicates, because you already have this foundation that if you just import a couple of PDFs, you have to build the foundation. But if you already use your graph that exists with it, then you can use that as a foundation and to make
Exactly.
entity recognition a little bit um,
Exactly.
work out better. Yeah.
Super.
Super. Yeah, with that, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Sid. Sorry we got a little bit over time, but it was just so interesting and very good to see. As I said, this was the last stream of this year, so the next session I'll be doing will be on 7th of January with Jesus. The first episode of the first episode of a stream this year will be a Going Meta episode. Where we talk about semantics, knowledge graphs, and we will talk about GraphRAG probably also. So that's going to happen. I mentioned the Neo4j developer survey. That's still running until end of year. So if you're interested in giving us your feedback, how you work with Neo4j or with software or with databases in general, then let us know. It would be great to get your feedback in. So we can adjust how we are a little bit deciding what we're gonna do and produce for you, where you are most interested in. And yeah, Sid already mentioned Graph Academy, Aura Free is where you can get the free instance of Neo4j in the cloud, and our community is great in the forums. There's a Discord server, and there are many places you can get in touch with us or other friendly Neo4j fans and experts. So yeah, with that, thank you all for watching this year. Thank you for being part of the Neo4j lives and other things around from the Neo4j community. If you like what we're doing, give this video, other videos a thumbs up. Follow us on YouTube, and yeah, have a good rest of the year. Happy New Year, and see you in January, everybody. Take care and bye bye.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sid. Obviously, thank you for
Thank you,
joining.
Alex.
Yeah,
Have a great holidays.
yeah. All right. Bye.